These are the stories topping the news. Prime Minister Douglas is on several official engagements in Nevis today. The government of St. Kitts Nevis praises the U.S. change in policy towards Cuba, and the Salvation Army in St. Lucia brings some relief to children affected by a recent natural disaster. Good afternoon. Welcome to ZIZ's Midday newscast for Thursday, December 18, 2014. I am Patrice Harris. Now the news in detail. Prime Minister the Right Honorable Dr. Denzil L. Douglas is in the middle of a hectic schedule as he visits Nevis today. The Prime Minister was scheduled to attend the distribution of laptops to first formers of the Charlestown Secondary School and the Gingerland High School in Nevis. Dr. Douglas, who is also Minister responsible for Social Security, will later make a presentation of a Nissan Frontier pickup truck on behalf of the St. Christopher and Nevis Social Security Board to the Nevis Fire Services. He will then go to the Alexandria Hospital to hand over a ventilator, an anesthesia patient monitor, and a vehicle to Nevis's Ministry of Health on behalf of the Social Security Board. Prime Minister Douglas ends his visits to Nevis with attendance at Pinnis Beach, location of the unveiling of the draft agreement between his governing St. Kitts and Nevis Labour Party and the Nevis Reformation Party that will strengthen their relationship for the betterment of the life and for the progress of Kittitians and Nevisians. It coincides with what has been dubbed a once-in-a-lifetime event at Pinnis Beach in Nevis and Port Zante on St. Kitts, featuring Jamaican artists Ioctane and Coppershot. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis has welcomed the major changes in the United States policy towards Cuba. In a statement on Wednesday, Prime Minister the Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas said St. Kitts and Nevis and governments all across the globe had long asserted that the half-century-old policy of the U.S. toward Cuba advanced the interests of neither the United States nor those of the Cuban people. Dr. Douglas has repeatedly called for the ending of the embargo at the United Nations and other international meetings. He stated that the decision of the United States to no longer be the only country on earth dedicated to the isolation of Cuba is therefore a most welcome development in the eyes of the international community. The Prime Minister said it reflects the determination of the Obama administration to re-examine and recast policies that do not work. He added that for this, President Obama deserves great praise. Prime Minister Douglas noted the government of St. Kitts and Nevis has benefited from many years of constructive bilateral relations with the government of Cuba. He said they look forward to witnessing the benefits that are to accrue to the governments and peoples of both the United States and Cuba as a result of this historic decision. New Road and surrounding communities are now benefiting from the new state-of-the-art New Road Family Park following an opening ceremony held on Wednesday. Prime Minister the Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Douglas, speaking at a brief tour at the park, noted that the opening of the park was testimony of the foresight and vision, the dedication and the execution of plans which Honorable Marcella Liebert had envisaged. The New Road Family Park, which according to Minister Liebert is still a work in progress, was built with the financial assistance of the Taiwanese government. The official opening ceremony of the park was witnessed by His Excellency the Governor-General Sir Edmund and Lady Lawrence, Resident Ambassador of the Republic of China and Taiwan, His Excellency Miguel and Mistress Isabella Tao, and the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Honorable Curtis Martin. In regional news, as President Obama's announcement signals a change in U.S. policy towards Cuba, the BBC's Paul Adams takes a look back on the turbulent relationship between the two countries.
When the world was still black and white, this man had Washington seeing red. Fidel Castro brought communism to the Caribbean. America's response, an embargo that's lasted 53 years. Now the White House says it's ready to cut loose the anchor of the past. The revolution and Castro's nationalization of U.S. interests threw down a gauntlet. Successive American administrations responded with threats and plots. In 1961, the CIA sponsored a disastrous attempt at counter-revolution. It ended in humiliation at the Bay of Pigs. Cuba's reputation as a Cold War flashpoint cemented the following year in a missile crisis that brought the world to the brink of nuclear war.
It shall be the policy of this nation to regard any nuclear missile launched from Cuba against any nation in the Western Hemisphere as an attack by the Soviet Union on the United States, requiring a full retaliatory response upon the Soviet Union.
The battle lines drawn up amid such drama simply froze with time. Cuba's economy, once so dependent on its huge neighbor to the north, withered. Firmly in the Soviet camp, Cuban troops and advisors could be found in distant Cold War conflicts in Angola and Mozambique. And all the while, Fidel kept up his fiery, often long-winded rhetoric. But Cubans paid a heavy price in economic hardship and political repression. Many fled, some prepared to risk their lives making the 90-mile sea crossing to Florida. In Miami, a brooding, resentful exile population grew, wielding enormous influence on US policy. But as the old-timers have passed on, younger generations have started to talk about dialogue. Fidel was getting old, passing the reins of power to his younger brother, Raul, and slowly, on both sides of this bitter divide, a tentative thaw began. This handshake at a memorial for Nelson Mandela a year ago was a clear sign. Now Washington says it no longer serves America's interests to seek Cuba's collapse. It's time, it says, for a better future. Paul Adams, BBC News.
The Salvation Army in St. Lucia has partnered with the Ministry of Social Transformation and other private sector agencies to convene a Christmas party for children affected by the Christmas Eve drought. The ministry says it was elated when it was approached by the private sector entities and non-government organizations to participate in the activity.
The Ministry of Social Transformation is happy indeed today to be collaborating with a number of stakeholders, namely Rhythm FM, KFC, the Salvation Army, in terms of bringing some Christmas feeling to kids who have been affected by the post-Christmas Eve trough last year. We were quite happy when we were approached by these private sector partners and the NGO community to be able to bring some kind of joy to these children.
The Salvation Army is pleased to be involved in this by asking the public to collect toys for this event. We have also taken the toys and wrapped them. We are pleased to be in partnership with the Social Transformation Ministry, KFC and Mr. Men's and Rhythm FM in this noble event. So we just thank God for this day today, and so we just enjoying it here with the others and the kids.
Among those who participated in the event were the Kentucky Fried Chicken franchise and Rhythm FM. Internationally, a government source says U.S. officials have determined North Korea was behind a cyber attack on Sony Pictures, an unprecedented act by a small, isolated nation.
A U.S. government source says investigators have determined that North Korea is behind a cyber attack on its new motion picture, The Interview, a crass comedy about two journalists recruited by the CIA to assassinate North Korea's Kim Jong-un. The theater debut of the movie canceled after a hacker group threatened attacks on cinemas which showed the film. Reuters correspondent James Pearson.
Using an asymmetric tactic like hacking is probably a very smart idea for North Korea's military strategists. What's different is that they've previously only gone after military targets in South Korea with their hackers. This time they've gone after a very high-profile corporate target, which has really exposed their capabilities, which they, for years, have really been lying in the shadows in Pyongyang.
Sony said it was deeply saddened by the decision. The company already reeling from the hacking of its computers and damage to its reputation.
Rescue workers have been working feverishly, some using bare hands to search for survivors in the rubble of a 4-story building that collapsed in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. Gavin Ogari reports.
A bare-hand search for survivors in what remains of a 4-story building that collapsed in Nairobi on Wednesday. At least 6 people were injured when the ceilings caved in, and local media reported that more are still feared beneath the rubble. Eventually, a moment of hope as rescuers find one person alive. Into the night, they continue their search and spot another possible survivor. One tenant says he barely made it out alive.
I woke up very fast. I was checking if there were any cracks within the building from the floor to the ceiling, and I did not see any. Then I heard some weird noise and I jumped out of my house naked.
Still no official word on what triggered the collapse.
Now the weather. Today's skies will be partly sunny and breezy. Temperatures are expected to reach a high of 28 degrees and a low of 24 degrees. Light winds will be blowing from the east-northeast at 10 to 20 miles per hour. This evening, skies are expected to be partly cloudy with possible showers. Sunset will be at 5:41 p.m. That's it for ZIZ's Midday newscast. Join us at 6:30 and 7 p.m. for the evening news.